there could definitely be a war in Taiwan.
Do you really think so? With like US
I
directly
genuinely
fighting
do, yeah.
with China directly?
If they go invade Taiwan, we are f***ed. It would be disastrous for us to lose all of that. We wouldn't be able to make like phones, we wouldn't be able to make cars, we wouldn't be able to make anything that involves technology.
China were to say like, okay, we own Taiwan now. No other countries in the world would be able to come together or start creating these fabrication plants or duplicate anything in Taiwan. It would just be game over. Back to the dark ages. We can't do it. Taiwan,
Yes,
this special piece of land was the only place on the entire planet that could ever manufacture and fabricate these wafers.
It would take a decade plus. You could get really lucky and maybe, but that's like less than 1%. It's really hard to understand the scale.
Wait, okay, can you explain why is it so hard to just build these fabrication plants? Is there any steelman argument that can be made for the Houthis shutting down shipping lanes? One thing that I'm really worried about, I was just talking to a friend offline about this, so this is just from one person and maybe it won't matter, is do you know anything about Zelensky?
A bit.
He expressed to me a worry that Zelensky is probably not a great leader, and that he's kind of like riding high off the wartime stuff, but that Ukraine might have a lot of trouble transitioning back into like a peacetime government, and that there might be a whole bunch of issues relating to, people getting paid certain money right now because of the war effort, and that it's not healthy for the country's like political future. Do you think there's any truth to that, or do you think that's just whatever?
I think it's very hard to say that because we have no analog to go off. Like, he was barely a president before this happened, and he didn't really do anything major. He was kind of just in there, and then it was like business as usual. But I mean, what at the same time, like, isn't that a bit like if you go back through history and you look at all the presidents and stuff through like wartime,
Mm-hmm.
like it's pretty normal for a president to come in, be really like, yeah, they're gonna push stuff. They're like really like optimistic, and then they come out and then they leave after war.
Sure. Well, the scary thing though is that like for a country like the United States, that's not a big deal, or for like the UK or whatever, it's not a big deal. But for Ukraine, I think people forget, maybe because we've been so swept up in the war stuff, like Ukraine was, I think, one of the most corrupt countries in the world.
If young Metro don't trust you, I'm gonna shoot you. Beautiful morning.
Like prior to 2014, and even after 2014, there were huge problems, right?
I mean,
and I think people are worried about going back to that. Yeah, go ahead.
It's making a lot of assumptions because like Ukraine is going to be a completely different country after this happens, one way or another. They're either going to have back the Donbass and they're going to be that. They're going to have to deal with insurgency and shit like that, or they're going to not have the Donbass and then they're going to end up with a country that's like just gone through war and going to have to deal with all these things. It feels like a very like non-issue to me. Like, why would you be worried about like a country that's literally just come out of war? And this is also completely removing the fact that like the whole rest of the world has a complete like an investment in them, in Ukraine, like restructuring. Like, all of the countries have huge amounts of money that they put in there that are very long standing. Like, for example, the EU has huge amounts of money that are like debt that they give them like over time, right? And the US companies obviously want it to like rebuild because it produces shit. Like, people want it to like produce food and stuff like that, so it's cheaper.
Should Ukraine be getting weapons that can strike into Russia, or do you think that would be a mistake?
I don't think they need it.
You don't think so? Doesn't that kind of limit, though, like the type of weapons theoretically, aren't there weapons we could give them that could strike like deep into Russia? That would maybe be bad, but it could also help them a lot on the battlefield. Like, we could give them weapons that have the capability of hitting into Moscow, but they don't need to use it for that. They could use it for, like the Donbass or for Crimea. Like, is that not possible?
Well, I mean, if you look at like I feel like we've already given the best and the highest thing we should relative to air or ground to ground. Air to air, it's a completely different thing, or ground to air. But like anything that's firing to the ground, I think we've done like the Storm Shadow is amazing, and it goes like 200 to 300 kilometers.
I thought, weren't we holding back a lot on like all the ATCOM shit and the?
No, yeah, you are. The US is. The UK aren't, and I think it's France. I'm not sure, but UK aren't. UK Storm Shadow is like the only long anti-ground missile that's actually going there. And if you right click on Google Maps and you can do measure distance, like you can see how far 200 to 300 kilometers. It's fucking very far. Like they can shoot stuff that's way into the US like field. And if you actually look at like the news of like refineries and stuff, like they literally shot up to they've been shooting drones into US like oil producing stuff. Like they did a refinery the other day. They did a gas terminal.
Who's shooting into U.S. Wait, I'm sorry. Repeat that last part.
The Ukraine is shooting drones into oil-related stuff. So they did an oil terminal or an oil and gas terminal, I think 3 days ago, and they did a refinery.
Russia?
Yeah, in Russia. Okay. Yeah. Either the terminal is in Ust-Gar, I think, and then the other one is like Tushi or whatever the fuck. I can't pronounce it. Mm-hmm. They're doing a lot. Like the refinery is like 200,000 barrels per day of refining. That's a lot of refining capacity. Like to just turn offline if they could, and it's getting through. But sorry, the air, if you're talking about stuff to air though, they're kind of constrained on that. Like they need new, they need F-15s.
What's the Yeah, I was gonna say, what is so Russia's not flying a lot of air missions over Ukraine, are they?
No, they basically haven't done any. Like they do it really close to the border, but they basically haven't done any since like
why not?
The Patriot came in, because they just the air-to-air game is just insane over there. Like if you have anything in the sky that isn't a drone, it just gets exploded by like 15 different
air-to-air game or the surface-to-air game?
Oh, surface-to-air. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. And then why? And then is Ukraine not flying planes for the same reason?
Well, they hardly have any. And yes, yeah.
Okay.
But it's also because and I was gonna say this before, but because the Ukrainians don't have any air-to-air missiles that can be put on aircrafts that do like long ranges that the Russians can. Russians can literally like set like across the map, and they can fire like 1.5 like 1,000-kilometer missile at like a plane, a Ukrainian plane, and the Ukrainian plane will have literally no idea it's coming, and they'll just blow up. So they lost a few planes to that, and they stopped doing it.
Are those missiles? And they come from other planes, and they're like maneuverable or whatever. Like they
they're like massive like the way they're described as like massive buses. Like they're literally like an old as fuck missile, but because it's so far away and Ukraine doesn't have anything to like counter it when they're flying, they just like they're fucked by it, so they can hardly do any sorties.
Why don't we have we can't just like share, like we can't track that by satellite or anything, or?
It's very hard to track a missile by satellite.
Okay. Yeah, there's just no way, and we don't have any type of like radar or air system.
Oh no, you can track it, but like when you're in a jet, for example, and let's say it's flying like it's doing a sortie to like the edge of like the area, right? Like there's no reason for like a jet in Ukraine, especially because it could get shot down, to just fly for no reason, right? So it's pretty much always going to be at the edge of territory because they're doing a mission. That like, for example, an AWAC on the like top left, where like all of the US and EU ones are, it's going to have a hard time seeing a missile that's going like very fast from 1,500 kilometers away from the Russian border, like far inside the Russian border, like to a plane, when there's other stuff going on as well.
Huh. Gotcha. So do F-35s run into these problems? Or are they good enough at avoiding like detection?
Well, they have counters. So they have like other air-to-air missiles which can counter that one.
Oh, interesting. Okay. We would never give probably F-35s to Ukraine though, would we?
Oh no, sorry. I thought you said F-15. F-15 you can do it as well. You just need the relevant platform to be able to fire the missile. So the problem with Ukraine right now is they don't have enough, or they don't have any planes that can actually equip the missiles. They have to like gerrymander them on. Sure. And even then it's like really shit.
Jerry-rig, you mean? But yeah, I understand what you mean. Okay. You said that F-15s or F-15s wouldn't have this problem, or you said they could, but
have the counter.
But the F-15 doesn't have like the weapon system or the platform to support it. You have to like jerry-rig it, or are you saying they have to jerry-rig their current planes, but the F-15s would natively support it?
The jerry-rig on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. We gave them F-16s from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, they've been like.
What was going on with for Saddam Hussein? Why did he get fucked so hard by air shit? I understand that was a long time ago, but was it? Did they just not care about planes, or did they never think the U.S. would come in? Or because my understanding is we basically had like a free reign of that country in terms of like air shit.
Desert Storm?
Yeah, didn't we, or did we not?
Yeah, it was because we had such a huge. The coalition had like an insane amount of superiority. They basically did like a huge like sortie. There's a really good video, you've probably seen it, of like the guy who like maps out all of the movement of like the units. It's insane. Like there's like I think it's 1,500 planes going around, and they like fired like a huge amount of missiles, and they basically just removed all of their anti-air in like the first like half of day, and they didn't go anywhere in there until they did all of that, and it was like all of it was gone.
Gotcha. What is like the range on like an air to surface missile from like a plane? Like how far away can you be shooting these things?
It can be really far. I'm pretty sure the longest ones are like 2,000 kilometers.
Really?
I think so. That might be supersonic. I think it's like around like 1,000 or
Okay,
like
I don't know
1.5
anything.
maybe.
Gotcha. I would have assumed like it was like 5 or 10 miles. Okay. Jesus Christ.
No,
okay.
definitely not that short. No. They can go way further than that.
Okay. What's the advantage of shooting from planes as opposed to doing like surface to surface missiles? Is it because they come off the plane faster, they're harder to track, or are they going to be fired from different places?
Yeah,
or
so
what?
it's easier because one, the maneuverability. Like for example, you can fly a plane around and then you can drop it off. But it's also the I don't know. This is like out of my field, like, but I know a bit of it. But it's like the actual maneuverability of a missile. Like some missiles, you literally cannot fire from a ground thing because you have to have the speed of a jet already. So you drop it off and it's already got the velocity of the aircraft.
What is that because of the way the engine on the missile works, or I would assume it's all rocket fuel?
Yeah, so it's the jet engine, right? So it has to use the certain amount of atmospheric pressure.
Oh, and you've got to be going fast enough for the air to intake or whatever,
Yeah.
I guess, to ignite the fuel
I'm
mixture.
pretty sure that's how it works.
Gotcha. Interesting. Oh, okay. Damn. Okay. It's kind of dark, but I feel like it would be cool to see, or it'd be very interesting to see like a high-tech war between two big powers, but I guess nuclear weapons also kind of makes it so that'll probably never happen, huh?
I don't think so. I think there could definitely be a war in Taiwan.
Yeah, but do you really think so? With like U.S. directly fighting with China directly?
It like, look at it this way, right? I think a lot of people very much like downplay, and you might be doing this. I'm just like going with how I think about it. Like, I think a lot of people really downplay how much importance Taiwan semiconductor actually has. The rest of the country is useless, very much. Like,
no, I'm not
TSMC
denying that like China wants Taiwan. I'm just questioning like with the United States.
No, I don't mean that. I don't mean that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean like the amount if they go invade Taiwan, we are fucked. We like it's going to be like 1970s but worse, like way worse. And I don't mean that on like the oil thing. I mean it just like they create 80 to 90% of all the advanced semiconductors, and they are not moving out of there because they want the leverage on the US. It would be disastrous for us to lose all of that. We wouldn't be able to make like phones, we wouldn't be able to make cars, we wouldn't be able to make anything that involves technology.
Well,
it would be like a huge block
for
on
now,
everything.
okay? Till Biden's CHIPS Act really takes off, okay?
Well, no, that doesn't fix it because they're not bringing over their lower architecture fab things. They're keeping their highest ones in Taiwan because they don't want to bring that leverage over to the US.
Is this literally impossible for us to duplicate here? The United States of fucking America can't do lower level.
It's RNG. Like for example, Intel and what's his name? Not ASML. It's Intel and there's another one. I've forgotten what it's called.
People are saying ASML make the chips. The fabs are made.
No, ASML don't make the chips. They make the lithography that create the chips.
Okay.
They don't make
TSMC manufactures them?
No. AMD don't make chips. I'm seeing chat. AMD and Nvidia don't make chips. They make the designs for chips, and then the fabs create the chips. Samsung, that's it. Samsung and Intel and TSMC. So they've all been trying to make lower architecture. For example, Intel has been stuck on like 12 to 10 nanometer for ages. Samsung has really good nanometer architecture, but their yield is trash. So, for example, Apple had a deal with them before, but their yield is so garbage. They went to Taiwan Semiconductor because their yield is better, and they have better. What's the name? Architecture.
Okay.
So like they legitimately have a very, very, very big lead on everyone else, and it can't just go away from spending more money on it in like a couple year time period. It could definitely take like 10 plus years for us to catch up to them.
Wait, so I understand Taiwan is important and everything. I just don't understand the part where the U.S. is actually like fighting with China. That just feels like so catastrophic.
So like let's say what I was going before. Like you can't make a car, you can't make a computer, you can't make phones, you can't make any of these things the way you could before. It would be like a massive downgrade. Like it would be going from like 2023 to like 2019 or 18, right? Or worse. because we literally cannot get those chips anymore because they're only made in Taiwan. And we can't copy those chips, and they aren't going to move out of there because they need that leverage to keep, fighting off China. Do you really think, as a country, like, not together, we're going to be like, oh, we're just going to let this happen?
Yeah, I feel like this is what would happen. I have no basis for this whatsoever. Okay, absolutely no basis. So take everything I say with many grains of salt, obviously. And you probably know more, obviously, about all of this than I do. But like, it feels like we're making these statements like Taiwan does this and nobody else can do the blah 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 blah. But like, world markets are fairly responsive. Like, you're telling me that if China were to say like, F it, we own Taiwan now, suck a dick, no other countries in the world would be able to come together or start creating these fabrication plants or duplicate anything in Taiwan. It would just be game over. Everybody like, F it, back to the dark ages. We can't do it. Taiwan, this special piece of land was the only place on the entire planet that could ever manufacture and fabricate these wafers. Like,
yes,
I'm sure it would be big delays and everything, but
no, it would take a decade plus. You could get really lucky and maybe, but it's like that's like less than 1%. It's really hard to understand the scale.
Wait, okay, can you explain why is it so hard to just build these fabrication plants?
So it's not the actual fabrication plants. It's the architecture. It's like having a patent.
We can't just steal it? Doesn't China steal all of our technology?
No, we can't. Well, I mean, you could if you wanted to.
Why? How can we not? What do you mean by you can't?
Just don't do that. You can't. I mean, if this was allowed, there would be no chip companies. There would just be one, and he would steal everyone else's. Like,
if this was we made Stuxnet. You telling me that? So it's literally just an intellectual property problem in terms of like we just can't duplicate it because we just don't know how they're made.
Yes.
Huh.
Oh no, you do know how they're made. You're just not allowed to make them because they own them.
Oh wait, so we could wait. Well, wait. Well, if it literally came down to like a national security bullshit, and China took over Taiwan or whatever. That the only thing you're saying, the whole world would set itself back half a decade or more because we wouldn't want to violate the intellectual property rights of fucking China.
Okay, let's say you do. You just say China goes, we want Taiwan. You like, all right, you can have Taiwan, and you're like, okay, we know we have the patents for these. We know how to make them, and we're gonna make them. That will take 5 to 7 years to make those fabs because you have to make new fabs. Okay. You can restructure already made ones, which I'm sure many companies would definitely love to do if you're like subsidizing it. But that would also take years because you have to remake the whole thing. Each fab thing is completely different. Like making one architecture to another one is like remaking the whole factory, and it takes years to make these factories. They're massive. And if you wanted to completely like restructure the whole global scale and make enough chips to make up for the loss, it would take a decade plus easily. In any scenario you want, it would take that long to make. It would, because you would have to make like I think they have 15 to 20 fabs, or like maybe 15. It might be just 15, but they have that many, and they make different architectures. It would take a very, very long time to make all of those things, and that would cost like hundreds of billions.
Okay. Based.
Maybe $1 trillion plus.
Okay. Well.
And that's not counting the hurt you would take from not having those chips in the meantime, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
That also applies to your military as well. You use these chips in the military. So your military like products would have to change, and that would be for them.
Okay. Well, anything else? People talk a lot about the South China Sea and China like sailing ships around here to like claim islands and shit. Is this like a real thing? Or I see a headline pop up every now and then. When they say that, are they like, what are they trying to do? Like take islands from like the Philippines or Malaysia? Or is it like
happening? Yeah, is the building like fake islands thing is semi right, but like what's happening is they're kind of like pushing their economic boundary. So there was a big story on this like 2 to 3 years ago, and they basically just like push into the Philippine like economic area, and they just say this is ours now, and the Philippine like sailors are just like, well, hey, we're so then you have like, you just get them pushing against each other. And the problem is with this is they've been doing it for a long time now. So they've actually taken land, or well, when I say land, I mean like water, and people can't use it anymore. So it is kind of an issue because it's kind of like setting a precedent that like China can just do whatever they want. Like they don't have to go through any regulations. They don't have to like. Obviously, it's a lot different to them blowing up Philippines and stuff like that and stealing it. But they are actually like pushing their political power and just stealing like land from other people.
And then what is the, not to sound cold, but like why does this matter? Do we ever think that China would like refuse some ships through like these shipping lanes or whatever? Or is it just them?
No, 100%. It doesn't matter for us, but it's obviously shit for the the
people there.
And stuff like that.
Okay. A long time ago, people were really concerned about the, was it called the Belt Road Initiative?
Oh, yeah.
That China was like extending influence through
Road,
a lot of Asia and Africa. And for a while, it seemed like China was dominating the whole world. I read an article, this was like 3 or 4 years ago, that basically said that like, actually, the West dramatically overestimates China's competence in this. And it's like a fucking nightmare shit show. And they're not actually doing anywhere near as well as people thought they would with that Belt Road Initiative. Where do you stand on like China's influence on countries that aren't like bordering them?
So the same with everything to do with China that is said in the West. It's either from one side or the other. There is no in between.
Yeah.
It's usually somewhere in between. The Belt and Road Initiative had a very hard time because of the issues they have with their debt and the currency issues. So the yuan or the CNH, its ticker, has gone down in value a lot recently due to against the dollar. And that has affected their debt because of like the debt the countries have with them. But it's also because of COVID, it fucked a lot of the countries that owed them money. There's a few African countries that actually couldn't pay on them. And what they do is they essentially just like remortgage it, like essentially, or refinance would be the proper word. But it's not like dead. It's still happening. It's just like going through a rough period. A very rough period.
Gotcha.
I would never say it's failed because the idea of it was to like export like China influence to other places and make them rely on them even more than they already do, like building infrastructure in those places like Africa or other places. And then the Belt and Road as a whole thing was meant to be building a train like thing across the place to like have a huge like economic like railway that goes through a bunch of countries to EU to make it. I don't know why they ever did that. I looked into like the economic value of it. It just seems a bit like odd. I mean, it makes sense for the countries in between, I guess. But like, you would have to have a very, very high speed like train to be able to make that economically viable in like a kind of non-cargo ship kind of way.
Do you think that the West overhypes how North Korea is, or do you think it is a shithole?
North Korea?
Yeah. Like lefties and shit always say that North Korea is actually not really as bad as people claim it is, and the people there do okay, and we just like overhype it. Or do you think it's pretty fucked?
I mean, I think that the problem is that people look at it from a Western point of view. Does that make sense?
No.
So like, we have all the like, we have loads of things we like TVs and like, we get new products every year, like etc. Like all these comfortable things, right? And like a new fridge and stuff like that. All these cool things, like. You just have to look at it like they're in the 1990s, I guess, like 2000s, or like permanently. But it's like instead of getting stuff every other year or year, they get it like every 5 years, and it's like a lot harder to get because the imports and stuff like that are very bad.
Gotcha.
But I wouldn't say there's like a like I don't think they're living like concentration camp like style shit. Like obviously I'm being hyperbole, but like yeah, I think it's like I think they're fine with it because every human's going to adapt to their thing, but they would obviously like it more if they weren't living in like a shit economy compared to us.
Gotcha. Okay, shifting gears. Okay, one more question. I haven't done Iranese history yet. Do you think that if Iran got nuclear weapons, do you think that Israel would actually be threatened? That like, or not threatened, but like, do you think that there is a chance for some sort of nuclear strike against like Saudi Arabia or Israel? Or do you think that's largely like overblown, or what?
Can I go like bit of a preface here? So one of the big things I think is really, really important right now, which you obviously haven't gotten to because you haven't researched Iran yet, is Iran and China's influential relationship. One of the things that worries me is not that Iran might get nuked, like not the most. That's like obviously very worrying. But the thing that worries me a lot is that China has a very, very, very like good reason to stay on like Iran's good side and them to stay like both ways, and it's also how much pressure they have on Iran's politics and their movement. So the reason this is one of the reasons this is important, for example, is Iran has a lot of exports of oil and they all go to China via like funny financial ways. They code for like Malaysia, like they say on the actual cargo thing, but they come from Iran, and they sell them to them, and they can't sell them to anywhere else. Like they rely on China to buy this oil. India might buy it, like a few like private companies might like try and skirt the roads, but like it's very unlikely, especially on like a 3 million barrels per day kind of scale. So Iran relies on China, and if they get nukes, like is China going to be like no, or are they gonna be like does that make sense? Like that's kind of a little bit more worrying, because to me it's like if they just had it themselves, then the US could just go in there and kill them all and just take the nukes and be like, yeah, f you, we're gone, because we know how much they have enrichment roughly. Like they kind of let the people go in there sometimes. They probably have a little bit higher, but we're pretty sure that they're very close or are at the point that they can make nukes. I think it's a 90% enrichment ratio or purity. So yeah, I don't think it's the worrying about them getting nukes. I'm pretty sure they're going to get nukes. It's whether or not they have the ability to fire them, one, like the ballistic missiles.
Isn't the ICBM part relatively easy compared to the nuclear like enrichment part, or no?
Oh, well, definitely, because when you're looking on a global scale, like, for example, like it's harder to make enriched uranium because people are like, oh, what are you doing? But if you're making an ICBM, it's like, you might be using that for ballistics, not like nuclear weapons.
Sure.
But,
and
like,
even they don't even technically need like ICBMs to hit like Israel, right?
No, but firing a non-ICBM missile it's going to be a bit weird. I mean, you could drop it, go like World War II style, but like I feel it would be very risky, right? Like, if you were Iran, right, and you're like, we finally got nukes, would you risk using a sub-tier like missile, like munition, like style, than using like a proper one that you're?
Well, I mean, you can use proper. When I say ICBM, they're like medium ballistic missiles.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I'm just saying. I'm just saying it's why people love ICBMs so much is because they are really hard to track. They have a very, very good like curvature, like between when you fire them and when they get to their target. It's a lot harder for them to track. They're very fast as well.
Okay. Why would it be hard for us to just go in and blow everything in Iran up as the U.S.? Like, China and Iran don't have a formal alliance, do they?
No, that's not what I'm saying. If you could do that, sure, that'd be great. But I don't think that's going to happen, because I think it would have already happened. To me, when I'm thinking about this, right, I think like US is like, okay, do we want to go there? They are enriching uranium. Why would the hell, if they could do it, why would they wait till the last second?
I don't know. Well, why haven't we then?
Kind of, but sorry?
Why haven't we? Why would the United States?
Well, my opinion is that they don't want to do it because it's too it means like the precedent of doing it. I don't know what the reason is, but I think to me it sounds very stupid to not go in there now and stop them from doing it if their idea is definitely, because they've said this multiple times, and with the deals between EU and US about the nuclear Iran deal, where they completely raised their demands over and over again that were really unrealistic, and that's why the US stepped out. They are very obviously wanting to get nukes. Why the hell would we let them get to that point? That seems really stupid.
Well, yeah, I don't know. You tell me.
Well, no, that I don't know. None of us know. Like, no one knows why the US, like, Pentagon isn't going to do that. At least from my knowledge, I haven't, because I keep up with this stuff, and I don't see a reason why we are just letting them do it. That's why I'm a little bit scared.
Doesn't Israel fly planes into like Syria and Iraq sometimes and bomb shit if they're, or maybe not Iraq anymore, but like Syria? I feel like I remember them doing this in like the 60s and 70s, where they'd fly into Syria and Iraq and like bomb nuclear reactors and shit if they thought they were enriching stuff. Why don't they fly over to Iran and bomb that shit? Is it too far for them, or?
That's a little too specific to me, but I would guess from what I know that they have like places. It's usually very, very secure. Like, flying a plane in that place would be very hard because you have anti-air and stuff like that. And Iran is shit, but like they're gonna have the best anti-air possible around their nuclear facility.
Yeah, you say like best anti-air possible, but like if we were like, I'm guessing, if the United States were doing like dedicated missions, like would Iranian anti-air, if Iraqi anti-air didn't stop us, would Iranian anti-air stop us, or?
Yes, probably, yeah.
Do you think so?
You can't, like, there's a certain point where your missile can't just like go for everything.
Oh,
like if you're firing,
what they have to do is they need to get 6 planes to fly a mission close to the ground. They need to do an inverted 9G dive. Did you watch that movie?
Oh yeah, I know you're referencing. Yeah.
What a great movie.
Black out before they fire it. Yeah, perfect.
Damn.
Yeah, I that's why I worry about China, because I feel like it's not. I think it's not an issue of them going in there, and if they can do it, it's a political issue. Because like I would really interested if you could research, because I genuinely have no idea why they aren't going there and doing that. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Wow.
Why would you ever let your biggest enemy make a weapon that historically has stopped all war happening from doing that? It seems really stupid.
Yeah, I don't know. Does Saudi Arabia, they have nuclear weapons and delivery vehicles, right?
We have nukes with them. Like they, yeah.
Gotcha.
It's like NATO, but not NATO.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know. Once we get to the... Wait, people are saying no. I know Israel has nuclear weapons and nuclear deliveries and have...
Oh, no, it's Israel. You're right.
Israel has for 50 years.
Yeah.
Does Saudi Arabia not?
Sorry.
Okay, never mind.
I thought you meant Israel. Sorry.
Okay.
No,
Gotcha.
they just have ICBM type ballistics.
Gotcha. Huh. Well... Pakistan does somehow. How the fuck did... I don't know Pakistan's history well. How the fuck did they get
they made them, I'm pretty sure. Or no, it wasn't. I think it was either they made them before it was all outlawed, or someone gave it to them. I think someone sold them stuff, or like they just took it and then they still have it for some reason. This is really rough though. I barely understand the Pakistan stuff. I think it's something like that.
Huh. Okay. Is it, on the grand scheme of things, if you had to do something, and the choice was between like enriching nuclear uranium versus building ICBMs, which one do you think is harder? Assuming other people weren't going to fuck with you.
You're enriching uranium. It's way harder.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, because ICBMs are just like rockets. It's just like some math and like...
Well, no, rockets is really hard as well. Like,
really?
Really, really hard. Yeah, because like if you think about it this way, right? Like, I think we take this for granted. Like the amount of like information you need to make a missile like that is insane. And you need people that are skilled in doing this to do it for years and years and years on end.
Huh. Okay. Did you see that apparently there was a paper that got posted today in Our Economics about how about how Africa, like theorizing why they have so much trouble like industrializing as quickly as other nations did? Did you see this at all, or?
No, I haven't. What was the idea?
I think they focus on basically tons of ethnic conflict, lots of unstable governments. Is this a... I don't know if this is a published paper or if this is what the fuck this is. I was just scrolling through some of the comments on it. I didn't actually read it. It's called Why is Africa Poor?
I feel like Africa's doing fine. I mean, like, I think, again, this is a very Western view kind of thing. Maybe I'm wrong, but like, I obviously don't know much about like culturally stuff like that. But like, when I say fine as well, I'm being like on the like road to coming to like the S curve. Like, for example, China like had a huge huge benefit along with India, that their population was massive and they had a huge amount of what's the word? They had loads of like resources like coal, so they could reliably scale up their industrial complex, and they had enough energy resources to be able to meet that demand. They had the population to do it. They had enough like young workers to do it. They had like the agricultural like ability to feed their people. They had a lot of benefits. The same with like India. As you said before, like Africa is like very segmented, but at the same way, like they have to import a lot of their stuff, and at the same time, they have to scale up in a very inhospitable like kind of area, in terms to like China, like on the coastal areas and stuff like that. Like if you're like in the middle of like Africa, then it's a lot harder to like boost up your economy. But at the same time, they are increasing like their standard of living is slowly going up. I mean, it took like 40 years for India to get where they are, and they're barely in like the like good period of like an economy. The way I like to think about it is this: is like there's like 3 stages of an economy. You have like the first period where like only the 1% or like top 10% get like the good economic conditions, and I don't mean like like we would like our economical conditions, but like good for their kind of economy. And then you've got like the second tier where it's like maybe the suburbs and stuff like that are getting good stuff, and then you've got the third tier where it's like the countryside and stuff are getting good shit. And the Africa are definitely in the first tier, but like India is basically just going on to their second tier, that they're just making roads to like across the country. They're building up large infrastructure. They're building they're finally moving on from like average like not a pedal bike, but like the motorbikes to like from motorbikes and two chair cars to four chairs, and they're like slowly moving up in their economical like tier.
Sure.
And it took them ages, and they've got the like one of the best situations in the world, population wise and resources wise.
Sure.
So
I think the issue is I think there's still like a ton of like violence between countries and stuff in ways that are really bad that people want there to not be when it comes to a lot of African countries. But maybe it's not fair to expect them to jump ahead as quickly or something. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about the region, so I can't say. I had one other question. Oh, do you think there's any truth to or chance that this Michael Sartain guy was talking to me about this? Well, I don't know what he reads or where his information comes from. Do you think there's a chance that Russia might be like a paper tiger insofar as their nuclear arsenal is concerned? That maybe the maintenance and the delivery systems on that are not really that good, or do you think it's still like a
100% not? If there's anything Russia does well, it's their nuclear thing. They spend so much money building and like keeping up with their nuclear deterrence. Like it's insane. It feels like really stupid to just go, oh no, their nuclear stuff is shit because their military shit, like their ground military. That just feels very extrapolation.
I think it wasn't. I think his argument had to do with the idea that like maintaining the isotopes and everything in the nuclear warheads was actually like a pretty costly and like time intensive and everything intensive.
No, it is, yeah. But they relative to the US, they spend so much more on it, and that's not even counting like that's not like overall, because they have more missiles. Obviously, it would take more, but per like missile, they spend a lot more. They also build like Perun even does a video on this. He like they build a lot more missiles that actually support like their nuclear. Everything they build supports nuclear missiles. Like, everything.
Okay.
I feel like it's like to me that feels very like bad faith, like from someone to like just extrapolate from their like ground military doing bad. Like it feels like, oh, everything in Russia is shit because this is shit, if that makes sense.
Okay. If the war ends in Ukraine, do you think that the Donbass is just gonna like declare itself like independent or whatever, like they did in Georgia? With what was it, like South Ossetia or whatever in the whatever the and then the other thing.
Can I ask if like how the war ends? Like it doesn't have to be specific, just like
assuming that like tomorrow, like okay, peace, we're all done fighting or whatever. Do you think that Russia would formally annex any of the parts of Ukraine, or would it all just run as like these quote unquote autonomous regions, and then Russia would basically have like de facto control, but not officially?
Ooh, if it ended today, I feel like this might like piss a lot of people off, but I think the Russians are gonna have like the quote unquote leverage in that scenario.
Oh damn, they already have annexed it. When they say annexation here, does this refer like formally they consider it like part formally of the country it's of Russia, like not like operating as an autonomous region, but actually like formally it is just now part of Russia or whatever?
Yeah, they fully annexed it, like they did Crimea.
Wow. Okay. Well.
Yeah, so it feels like to me it would be very hard for Putin to go. Putin has done this before, and I'm pretty sure you went through this maybe like a year or two ago. Where like Putin has pulled out of bad situations and like twisted it into a good way. He's like, a lot of people say, oh no, he would never leave because he wouldn't want the bad press. Like he's done it before. It might have been Syria, I'm not sure, but like the problem is now is like it's kind of in the period of like forever war. So I feel like they would have the leverage of a possible forever war going on, alongside them being a very, 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 very large marginal producer of a huge commodity, which is oil and other commodities, which those other commodities, by the way, are very, very needed in the Western world, like not just oil. So they've got that, and they've already annexed it. I feel like those three things combined give them a little bit of leverage overside Ukraine. If we were to just say tomorrow, hey, we're coming to peace negotiations, are we going to annex it or not? I feel like Russia would push for the annexation.
Okay.
Because I think it's going to be, I don't know if you agree with this, but I think it's probably going to be the US that's going to be doing the negotiations, like, in the background behind, Zelensky.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the US is going to be the important player there, right? Because we're the ones that ultimately hold the keys to everything. Well, okay. I love you. Be careful. If I have any other questions, I'll poke you. Be careful.
Yeah, anything about econ, oil, or just...
Oh, wait. One final question. Sorry. The republics, like, in Russia, what the f*** does that mean? What's the difference between that and, like, a Russian... Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, Chechnya, sure. I think, is, like... It's, like, part of Russia, but it's, like, a republic in Russia. Like, what the f*** does that mean? Insofar as, like, how it runs.
I don't believe... I believe it's, like, I believe it's like it's not like they have like pull over like the jurisdiction on like on laws and stuff, but I think they can like intervene if they want. It's kind of like how it was before in the USSR, I think.
Is it though? Because I feel like they have more control over the republics than they would have theoretically of like the states part of the
I'm just like pulling together tiny bits of information that I have. Yeah, I'm not like very knowledgeable on this.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Gotcha.
All right. So yeah.
Have fun, be careful. Loser. What a nerd. Got him. Is there any steelman argument that can be made for the Houthis shutting down shipping lanes? Or...
No.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not being obstinate when I say that as well. I'm being genuinely serious. Like for example, I can give you a scenario, right? So I'll put some things in chat, like to show you how bad it is. But like so they're shutting off a whole strait right now, right? And they have actually done it. They've done it. This hasn't happened in a long time. I posted them there. So the actual like throughput through the strait is like zero, like basically like compared to what it like literally zero. The only ships that are going through there is Russian ships that are transporting oil from Primorsk up in the EU and Novorossiysk or whatever it's called in the Black Sea.
What is this? I don't know what the this is. A container index.
That container says how much it costs to ship something.
Oh,
from
gotcha. Yeah. Oh, we saw there was a graph that showed like the huge reduction in traffic. I didn't see it. It was at zero, but maybe that was from 2 months ago. But yeah, people are just choosing to sail around to the south now instead of going through.
Yeah, the Cape of Good. Yeah. So let's say you're Yemen, like, and you're like, okay, I don't want the US to keep doing this, right? So they stop the strait. Firstly, around like, if we're going to do this in like metric terms, I would say around 70% of all the hurt right now from freight side, so cargo, is going to go straight to 90% is going to go to EU, and about 10% is going to go to the US.
How is a percent metric?
So like for example, how much this is going to hurt.
Yeah, but you said let's do this in metric terms, then use 70%. Do you think we don't have like percentages? Ratio. Okay, go ahead. Percentage-wise. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm with you. You said most of the hurt is probably going to be for Europe right now?
Yeah, on the cargo side, it's going to be mostly Europe because no cargo is going to go
it's the metric, not at the metric system. A metric. I'm sorry. I'm retarded. Ignore everything I'm saying. But anyway, yeah, okay. Yeah, because like shipping from like India and China and everything probably passes through here, and then for the US.
Yeah, they're going to go from west to the west coast of America, or they'll go through the Panama Canal. So it's going to hurt EU, and then you have the oil side, which is the tanker side. That's going to be like 60% EU and like 40% US, because oil is a global market and people arbitrage each other. That people actually trade oil like tankers, and they don't like, they're not a country or a company, right? They are, but they're not an oil company. They'll actually hold oil for a certain amount of time until oil prices go up, etc. Yeah. So it can hurt a lot more because it's globally.
Do you think that? Is there a good reason not to be honest about foreign policy? Ben brought up something in our talk that I'd mentioned like I think 5 years ago, and I haven't actually brought this up since. But I actually super agree with it that I feel like if we were just more honest about what foreign policy is and what our aims are, that we could like get away with more or do more. So like, for instance, like when America is engaged in foreign policy decisions, ultimately at the end of the day, it's to benefit America and American interests. That's like really important. Now, it just so happens that a lot of other people's interests coincide with ours, especially if you're a peace-loving, economically prosperous democracy and you want to engage in trade and have guaranteed shipping, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like if we were honest about like our foreign policy aims like that, I don't know why anything having to do with Yemen would be controversial whatsoever. Like it would literally just be like, oh, there are people that are disrupting, global trade and, maritime shipping lanes or whatever the and, we're just going to absolutely, completely and totally destroy the out of everything until they stop doing it. I feel like that should be a really non-controversial or uncontroversial position. But I wonder sometimes if we're the victim of like we're just trying to save peaceful people rhetoric or some bullshit like that.
I mean, if you're taking that from like the comparison to before, I would say it's like half true, but also like you're also comparing yourself to a really different world. Like back then, like the conversing through the world is a lot smaller and a lot slower. So, for example, if the US goes and destroys Yemen in like 1980, it's going to take a lot longer for that information to come back in like a visceral way for like the population. Because I'm guessing you're saying this on like a US to US. So like if the president goes out and says we're going to do this, and what the US population thinks of it, not like the world, because they don't give a shit what the world thinks usually. Like if Saudi says, or not Saudi, but if like some African country says no, we don't like this, or China says no, we don't like this, it doesn't really matter because America's going to do it if it benefits them that much.
Sure, depending on, but yeah.
But I would say it's like half and half. Yeah, like being like more open today. Yeah, I don't know. Like it feels like it would be like it could go really badly or it could go really good, because like you either got like the whole of the left going like super soy on you, like, hey, no, we don't want this, like you're fucking over someone, or like you've got like the right going, yeah, we love this, like America being good again, like they're pushing their foot down, not letting like these rebel communities go off the off the fly.
It's because of civilian casualties. Why? I don't know. I feel like that's not our problem. But maybe that's not... No, actually, you know what? I feel like rules of war deal with this pretty well. Like, if you're housing civilians near your military infrastructure, that's on you. I feel like that's your fault. If we bomb Yemen or Houthi missile launching installations and there are civilians nearby, like, those targets are evaluated as military targets, as they rightfully should be. And if you're upset about civilian deaths in Yemen, then your blame should rest squarely with the Houthis. There's just no rhyme or reason. At the very least, I don't agree there's good rationale for the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, but at the very least, they can make the argument that, like, well, we live in a small area, Israel is oppressing us, we're going to fight, I don't think it's a good argument, but it is an argument. But, like, I don't think that the Houthis have any argument. We're going to start blowing up random ships, and because we are unhappy about this other conflict, on the other end of the peninsula, if this even counts as a peninsula up here, that's just bullshit. It should just be leveled.
One thing.
When I say leveled, also, I'm being hyper. I don't mean we should bomb the whole country, but I mean like any military base or installation should be completely and utterly obliterated. Yeah.
The one thing I think is really funny about this is like, especially a lot of the left as well, is they treat these ships like no one. Like a lot of the commentary online is like, oh, these Yemenis are trying to help the Israelis, but like stopping ship trade. But like no one talks about like if this was like a land route, right, and people were going like on a train or stuff like that, right? Like stuff that people could actually personalize with and like compare themselves with. Like you go on a train normally, like, or you go on like a car, like a car or something. If they were just blowing up like trains and shit, everyone would be fucking mad. But they don't care because it's ships. Like you can't imagine yourself on a ship, right? No one goes on like these cargo ships. They just think
I understand what you're saying, and in another world I might have believed with you, but with where the rhetoric is today, especially with all the pro-populism, I don't think people would care, because they would just blow up like cargo trains, and people would, I feel like all the posting from like Hassan and all these people online would be like, guys, you keep thinking they're blowing up trains. It's not like the Hogwarts Express, guys. They're not blowing up that. They're just blowing up cargo trains that fall over. There's only like, sometimes these don't even have real people operating them, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I just feel like it's like non-existent at all. Wait,
hello?
Oh, you cucks, I think.
Oh, yeah, I don't know why. Anyway, keep going. Fuck YouTube. They should be watching on Kick anyway, see?
I was just going to say, it feels really weird that people are defending, like, blowing up civilians to help another civilian. Like, it feels like are we at that point now? Is just blow up other people because we can?
Yeah. Yeah, that justification is just wild. Like, I'm so unhappy with this other conflict, I'm going to start blowing up like ships, merchant ships. Yeah, it's wild. I don't know. I think I'm supposed to debate Jenk on it, but I delayed it by a week because I just want to be more prepared.